ever get so close? How'd you ever get so close? How'd you ever get so close? Close to me.
All right, let's get into the second part of Before and Afterlife, the newest collection of songs by my friend and great singer-songwriter, the songsmith Eric Hutchinson. I'd like to thank him so much for allowing me to do these podcasts with him. We did it for the last record, Modern Happiness. Once again, my name is James Campion. I'm an author and a journalist, and I've been writing about Eric now since 2005, and each album has such great themes and great stories in them and great humor that I learn more about him, but I also learn more about the craft of songwriting and storytelling. And as a writer, I really relate greatly to him. And as a dad now, going over these songs, and as somebody, strangely enough, who also lost his mother-in-law over the last year, that's what we're going to enter into here. And before we start, if you could take a moment and just talk about how you remember your mother-in-law, a little bit about her, and how they informed these songs, or what you were trying to attempt with this second part of the record.
Yeah. So my wife's mom, Betsy, passed away, and I don't think we've talked about this, but there's two alternate covers. There's the Before Life cover and there's the Afterlife cover, and each of them has sort of in small writing what looks kind of like the catalog number, but it's actually Betsy's initials and birthday on hers, and Zelda's initials and birthday on the Before Life. So it's a small detail that Donnie Phillips added to it all. And you would never know that if you didn't listen to these podcasts.
That's right. And I actually remarked how I love the artwork and the layout of the Before one. I think that's the one that you put out, right?
I think that's the final one, Before and Afterlife. It's just the main difference is just we took out the words on it, so it's pretty similar.
Oh, I see. So at the bottom, because it looks like an old jazz 1950s kind of cover, which Eric said he was going for, and I love that kind of thing because much of this record, as we mentioned prior in other podcasts, using jazz cats recording in a cool, funky, jazz-orientated Lower East Side studio. It's just a great visual addition to what you're doing here with this record. Yeah, that's a cool little tidbit. So yes, please continue.
Betsy was like my wife, a one-of-a-kind person, and I was more affected by her passing away than I expected to be. I think especially with a daughter on the way, I just felt like I lost this connection. Jill's an only child. Well, she has half sisters. She grew up on her own though with her mom. At least that's how I would tell the story. And she was an only child, and her mom was the person that could sort of tell me all the things about her being a kid, and that losing that tunnel, I guess, or that bridge to that past was difficult for me. And I guess I just spent a lot of time thinking about what happens after you die. And like I said in previous podcasts here, I was in a period where I was after this person had died, but before my daughter was born, and it was just a lot to think about in terms of the circle of life. And but Betsy was like I said, an individual, one of a kind, and was always amazingly nice to me and supportive, and was a great mom to Jill too. So I think I just wanted to honor that, and I don't know. It's
so strange for us. Because we love our wives, and so they come from these foundations, and especially with the woman, the mother, there's a reflection there. And I love my mother-in-law because she always treated me, she always would call and be like, "Oh, it's my favorite, son-in-law," because she should say that to every son-in-law probably. So when I call, I say, "How's my favorite mother-in-law?" Because you only get one. So she had a great sense of humor. She loved sports. She loved films. She She loved to laugh, and I loved to make her laugh. So you see that connection, as you said so beautifully, but also you see someone who doesn't really have to love you. You always hear the mother-in-law stories. I know that it's always from the mom, the woman's point of view, but not so. You see it always depicted in jokes. Oh, my mother-in-law. But it means a great deal. It meant a great deal to me to be completely accepted, and because both of us do jobs that are not exactly going off to counting or whatever, to the factory. So you need that faith from the mother-in-law. So it's a nice feeling to have.
Yeah, it was just, and I've talked to some people since then. It's sort of a common thing, especially at our age and stuff, to lose a parent right before a child is born. But it's still hard for me to believe that she'll never meet her, and just to have lost that link to the past.
Sure.
So that stuff was definitely on my mind while I was working on some of this music.
When you finally expire, you were sleeping alone in the dark. You can finally retire. You can finally let go of your spark. How'd you ever get so close? How'd you ever get so close? How'd you ever get so close? Close to me.
So the first song in the Afterlife part is Born in the Dark. And man, did that hit me right in the solar plexus. Just the title. It basically depicts something that I grappled with myself in the early aughts when I eventually, really the late 90s. And I write about it here, and here's in my notes. When I was working on my third book, Trailing Jesus, I had come up with a theory that life, or the spark or soul or essence of our being, exists before our humanity. That the spirit life happens and then always happens, as most faiths and philosophies have imparted, of course. But therefore, we come from something, not just where we're going, but where we're coming from. So I call that in my book the nothing. Not quite something, but then again, not a void. This, again, I found out through further research for the book, is not necessarily original, but hardly noted in most religious discussions. Usually it's, where are we going? What is the point of all this, and what happens as a result of all this? This song, Born in the Dark, in my estimation, the first of the second Afterlife side, which deals with the death of Eric's mother-in-law, Betsy, is a reflection of this theory. And in the chorus, we are born in the dark. We die the same way. We're igniting a spark. We snuff out one day, and we're barely around. We're the wind, so we go where we're blowing. That is just exactly what I was going for. Over thousands of words and pages. But just the title evokes it. And I don't know if any of this is how you saw it. Like, Born in the Dark is you don't exist, then you do, and then you don't exist. Regardless of what your faith is. This is what we know. You're there, but where are you coming? Where is that thing? Because they say, my wife's an atheist. But when she saw her lifeless father, and at that point she was only in her 20s, it was the first dramatic big loss in all of our lives, of the close-knit families, she was like, that's not my father. So it's not like all of a sudden she's found God or decided this, but there's something about the spirit. And that informed later on how that book came for me. So I don't know where you fall on this or if this song hits it, but I can't see how it wouldn't.
Yeah, I think sort of the idea that there's the line where we're born in the dark and we die the same way. It's sort of this sort of circle of life thing, and that at the end we don't necessarily know any more than we did in the beginning. And this song was a song of mourning. I feel like it's probably my most adult song I've ever written. Certainly, like the way it's arranged and everything. And this was a hard one. This was maybe the I don't know when we did this one, but arranging it was a lot of work because it took us a while to kind of get the second half of the song where it sort of lights up. And I love the way the band played on this one, and Wayne Tucker's trumpet solo is beautiful. But yeah, I think to me it's, I guess getting to the death side of things is a lot more unknown. There's a lot more up for debate, I guess, on what happens, which is part of the fun of the afterlife, I suppose, is nobody knows what happens, so everyone gets to talk about it. But I think for me, I was offering a couple different versions of it, but I think this song is, from my point of view, like my actual point of view, as a living person dealing with death, like I'm sort of talking to a spirit, and death left me with a lot of questions.
You say, walk me out, see if I am really an original. You say, walk me out, I have nothing left for me to prove. How'd you ever get so close? How'd you ever get so close? How'd you ever get so close? Close to me.
That's the line I kept coming back to. How'd you ever get so close to me? Just that thing of, that's the real thing, that I experience with loss, is just that hole of like, how did I not realize how much I was relying on you?
Right. Yeah, you don't miss something until it's gone. Theory, which
Right.
It's an axiom because it's true. Right here, Eric is trying to come to grips with mortality through his art as well, and I was very moved and related immediately with the first verse, which brings us into this side with great solemnity. And you write, when you finally expire, you're sleeping alone in the dark. You can finally retire. You can finally let go of your spark. That's what I was talking about before. And then, how'd you ever get that close? Go ahead, please.
Well, I was going to say, the spark thing is tied to the songs in the beginning of the album, too, that are about the life thing of that, the spark, the spirit. I believe in the spark is what I'm singing in the best part. And
here it is fading.
Yeah. And this was what happened. Betsy passed away in her sleep, and this is sort of a spiritual telling of how that might have gone.
Yeah, and I got out of, what I got out of How'd You Ever Get So Close? And I like how'd you ever get so close? How'd you ever get so close to me? So you're putting yourself out of, you're explaining, for this particular song, how you were affected by it. And I wrote this idea that as sons-in-law, we are not of our wives' families. But somehow, because of these women, for both of us, we're meant to feel that way. I had a special relationship with my mother-in-law that is hard to describe. It meant something beyond me being married to her third and youngest daughter. It was as if we could have been friends, no matter what the circumstances are. And I love to make her laugh, as I said before, to make her think. I love to bust her chops, discuss baseball and movies and family stuff and politics and all of it with her. And I would always ask, even at the time, I was like, how did that happen? Did we kind of say, well, we're thrown together, so we might as well make the best of it? Or did these people, are these the kind of people that if you met on a train or you met at school or you guys were closer in age that you'd be friends with, you'd go have a beer with? Because I had many beers with my mother-in-law. She was just one of the gang,
Right.
That's what I got out of, how did we get so close? How does that happen?
And sometimes you don't notice it until it's not there anymore,
Yes. And it must also be pointed out here that this is the first solidly jazz-orientated piece in the record. This thing is a jazz song. This melody, the groove, the performance, the mining of the absolute best out of these musicians. You're getting the best. It makes me think that this was the song that convinced you that this is how the record would go, or convince you that way. This is especially prevalent in the sax solo interlude, and then the vocal exercise in and out of the piano trills that come in and out. I mean, this song is the most jazz song. That's my observation.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I said that in the intro podcast, that this was the first song I remember working on for this. So
okay, so there it is. Yeah, so it was informing how you would go forward.
Yeah.
And they really come through. Like I said, these musicians came through for you on this. They're all in on this.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm really proud of how the second half of the song sort of comes to life, for better of a lack of a term. But this was a song that found it took the longest to sort of find the arrangement together, and to really, for the musicians to get their head around how it was going and what I was looking for. And
Right.
So it was a triumph when we finished it.
How'd you ever get so close? How'd you ever get so close? How'd you ever get so close? Close to me. 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 We are born in the dark, we die the same way, we're igniting the spark. We snuff out one day and we're barely around, with the wind so we go where we're blowing. We are born in the dark, we never know why, we can breathe from the start. We can't help but cry and we mourn from the past doesn't know where we're going. We are born in the dark, we never know how, we don't know what we want, but we want it right now. In the light it's our face, begins to inform our beginning. How'd you ever get so close? How'd you ever get so close?
One thing I commented here at the end is then, without warning, the song kicks into the upbeat, soulful jazz sections wherein the vocals act like another instrument. This is another example of you playing off the horn blasts and this incredible bass and piano foundation they laid down, and singing again, we are born in the dark, and we never know why. We can breathe from the start. We can't help but cry, and we mourn for the past, but the past doesn't know where we're going. See, that is the essence of where these two sides connect for me. Is we mourn for the past, but the past doesn't know where we're going. The idea of you seeing the future, hoping, having the faith in your daughter, and also, like you said before, not having that link to the past, because the past can inform how we go. If we don't heed history, then we can be, felled by it.
Right.
And that's said better in another way. But you know what I'm saying, is that in essence, I think this is the key, those two lines, and we mourn for the past, but the past doesn't know where we're going.
Yeah, I like that. And the line before that is something I've thought about a lot, that the first thing we do when we are born is start crying. It's an interesting, I don't know, it's interesting to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always look at it as the very act of birth is violent and
definitely, yeah,
bloody and just loud and scary, and it's painful for anybody, and then you're out. And that's the way it is. It's a great precursor for life, because that's the way it is with creativity. We know how that is. I am not in any way, shape, or form out there, people, comparing what Eric and I do to having a child, because I've been in the room, and I'm telling you, that's nothing I would ever want to do or can do. My wife is superhuman, as I know Jill is. But there is something about creativity, creating something, and the pain of seeing it come, and painting over lyrics, painting over paragraphs, figuring out how this thing's going to be done, the constant editing and re-editing, the constant, if something's going to be great, it's got to have some pain in it, is my point. Right. Yeah.
I don't know if I totally agree with that idea, that everything has to be painful, but I think that...
Certainly some things come easily.
Yes, but I think it was something that to me that I had to think about of like, oh yeah, this being has existed only in fluid and in a stomach and thinks this is what life is. And then there's a whole other thing. And I mean, that's a lot of what being alive is this is what life is. And then something else happens and then you're like, oh, now this is what life is.
Right, yeah. It's like walking on the moon for them.
Right, yeah.
Like they're completely in a different environment. It's crazy. What's all this breathing now? Also... Excellent job on the cold ending.
Thank you.
Great idea on the cold ending. It just...
Yeah.
The way it is with life.
I like the way it came together. Yeah, exactly. It's sort of... I loved all the playing in it. And I actually had a fourth stanza that I loved so much how the band sounded when it kicked into that high part that I really just wanted to be able to hear them. So I cut some of the stuff to be able to hear them. So it's really... There's like that interlude section before I start singing.
Oh, so you had something else there, but you took it out? Yeah.
And I can't even remember what... There were more lines pontificating about life, but I really loved hearing them in the way that Hila is playing the piano there. It's just really beautiful in the horn parts, and it's just got a... this song is very tonal to me in terms of like it's... Again, I guess trying to paint a portrait of what it feels like when somebody's leaving.
Right. But Born in the Dark...
It's very much from the point of view of the living, I guess, is important. Because some of the songs coming up, the rest of the songs are from the point of the dead.
That's right. That's interesting, yes. But again, your choice of saying Born in the Dark, again, very original. It took me right back to my theorizing in my book and this idea of, we're always contemplating, where are we going? Where are we going? I get that. But where have we been? Which is in that line about the past.
Right.
And, do we all, whatever that is, come from some, I call it the universal soul, where everybody is connected, and then you come in and you're individualistic, and the rest of your life is building this ego. And the Buddhists, of course, talk about get rid of that ego, and you'll get closer to this feeling of enlightenment.
Right.
But Born in the Dark... Excellent title is my point.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And I had that title from very early on. This song is not the way I usually write songs. It's different. It's a different kind of song. It's also why I say it feels like very adult. I don't think I ever would have allowed a song to be as slow and as patient as this song is. The first half of it.
It needs that.
I think so. And it's sort of creating a tone and just sort of allowing it. But it's not necessarily how I would have written a song before. So... It was hard for me to write it because I didn't know what it was exactly, But I had that lyric from the very beginning, we are born in the dark, and it felt comforting more than, like, depressing,
Well, you were inspired to pay tribute to Betsy, and bravo.
Thank you.